A Columbia University analysis said that had the lockdown or social distancing happened sooner, the analysis said almost all of the lives that have been lost could have been saved. And then a New York Times reporter issued a tweet that implied you are culpable for those deaths.
You know, it's a disgrace what I watch from this fake news media and from some of these liberal institutions. Columbia is a liberal, disgraceful institution to write that, because all the people that they cater to were months after me. They said we shouldn't close it. I took tremendous heat. You know this. When I banned China from coming in, first time anything like that ever happened, I took tremendous heat, tremendous, like a level that I've never seen anything like it. And that went on for months. They were criticizing me. Sleepy Joe Biden said I'm xenophobic, meaning I don't like people, certain people. And other people said as bad as that or worse. And that was in January. And I saw that report. It's a disgrace that Columbia University would do it, playing right to their little group of people that tell them what to do.
This is Trump getting called out over an analysis showing that had he deigned to take action even 1 week earlier than he did in March, 36,000 fewer Americans would have died in the coronavirus outbreak. And so instead of having 65,000 deaths by May 3rd, we'd have had 29,000 deaths. 29,000 too many, but exponentially better than what we're left with. And if the US had begun lockdowns and enacted social distancing 2 weeks earlier, a staggering 83% of deaths would have been avoided, meaning we could have saved 54,000 people out of the 65,000 who died by May 3rd. And Trump's response, predictably, is to attack everyone and anyone associated with the findings. He attacks the New York Times because how dare they publish analyses with scientific data and not fawning platitudes. He attacks Columbia University as some liberal cabal, and so because he ordained them liberal, suddenly nothing that came out of that university can be trusted. Which, you know what, maybe he's got a point. And of course, would the sun even rise if Donald Trump didn't tout his China ban? This is his favorite talking point about early action he took to mitigate the spread of the virus, which probably has something to do with the fact that it was the only early action he took to mitigate the spread of the virus. And yet even so, it wasn't effective. The travel ban still let 40,000 people into the country anyway without proper testing or contact tracing. And I'm not sure if he's had a chance to check, but we have the most cases and the most deaths in the world. So for him to brag about a travel ban as if it worked is completely divorced from reality. Do you know why people were adverse to Trump's travel ban? Because they don't work. You want proof? Literally look at the United States right now. We had a travel ban and we now have more cases and more deaths than any other country on the planet. That's how you know that travel bans don't work. Trump is literally touting a debunked solution as if it saved us in response to a question about his failure to implement actual solutions that would have had actual impacts. He even complains that Democrats were calling it xenophobic, and that's because it was. Here's why. If Trump was concerned with mitigating the spread of the virus, he'd have taken the well-known steps that every other country on the face of the earth took to stop it. He'd have coordinated a nationwide testing system, implemented contact tracing, advocated for social distancing, encouraged governors to issue stay-at-home orders, and ramped up production of PPE. Those are what worked. Those are what the countries that had immediate success did. Trump didn't take those steps. Instead, he issued a travel ban from China. And for a president who has looked for any excuse under the sun to issue travel bans throughout his presidency, clearly yet another travel ban was not meant as a good faith effort at fighting the virus. If he was serious about the virus, there were a slew of steps he could have taken. He wasn't serious about the virus, which is why he used it as an excuse to simply tick off an agenda item that he's been vocal about for years in banning people from coming to this country. So Trump can pretend that he did everything perfectly and acted quickly, but the truth is that he's the president and it was his responsibility to show some leadership. It was his responsibility to coordinate testing and contact tracing and social distancing and stay-at-home orders and PPE, but he didn't. He chose instead to hold rallies, to pretend that it was contained, to lie and say that cases would go from 15 to 0, that it was no different than the flu, that it would go away with the heat in April, that it would miraculously disappear. That's what he was wasting his time doing instead of actually being a leader and instead of actually saving lives. The buck stops with him, and so does the responsibility for those lives lost due to his own failure to act.